Do you want to live a long and healthy life? Do you want to perhaps live to 100? Well, today I'm going to tell you all about the Blue Zones, which are places in the world where that's reasonably common. So stay tuned and hopefully you'll get some answers on how you can live a long and healthy life. Okay, so first let me apologise. I did actually go to visit one of the Blue Zones a couple of days ago, which actually I think you can see from here. That village that's up in the hillside nestled between those two mountains, that's called Villagrande Strisaili, and that is one of the first blue zones. So what's a blue zone? Well, a blue zone is basically a blue dot on a map. There was a chap called Dan Buettner, and him and his team had been studying places in the world where people live longer than expected, and Villagrande was one of the first. The reason they found that place interesting is because, on average, if you look at people that live to 100, women outlive men 4 to 1. But in Villagrande, it's about 1 to 1. In fact, they had 47 men over 144 women. So actually the men were outliving the women at that age. So I went there with my son. We took our hired car and we drove up this horrible road for 45 minutes to get up into the mountains. And I tried to film. Do you know what? I'm going to put some clips here. I'll maybe intersperse them in the video of me trying to film. It was very terrible. Do you want to live to 100? Well, the people in this town quite often do. Firstly, it's not exactly conducive to filming. There's basically one road that winds through the town. There's nowhere to park the car. And there is no one around. I think maybe the 47 men and 44 women are the only people in the town. There's nobody else there at all. And the only people that were there were in shops, and whenever I started talking, they would come out of the shop and start looking at me and sort of staring. I'll just have to cut a lot of it. And wondering, maybe they thought I was some kind of Blue Zone tourist, which I suppose I am. Anyway, it became very unnerving, so I stopped. Right, what do you want to do? I stopped and drove away. In fact, we drove through the town a second time to see if we could find somewhere better, but gave up. Right, let's go and have a look elsewhere. Anyway. This, where I am right now, this is Sardinia, and the other places in the world that have blue zones are places like Okinawa in Japan, Ikaria in Greece, Nicoya in South America, Lindolomu in California. And when those guys realised that these places were where people were living longer than expected and also healthier than expected, they would put a dot on the map. It just so happened they were using a blue marker pen, and that is where they got the name the Blue Zones. So I've made a few videos about why the people in Villagrande live a long and healthy life and other blue zones, but certainly in Villagrande there's a few things that are common themes. The first one is the family element. People have a very close-knit family, and that also leads into another aspect, which is purpose. So a lot of the elderly people are integrated into the family unit. They're multi-generational families. People eat together, they celebrate together, they help each other. And as a result of that, the older generation still feel valued. They still feel they have a role, they still feel they have purpose, and they're very integrated into that. Now, when you're active and you're doing a lot of these kinds of things and you have purpose, then you're more likely to be healthy because you're still doing things. But also, you're less likely to have things like mental decline. You're less likely to be lonely. You're more likely to have resilience and less likely to be stressed because you've got trust. You've got people that you know rely on you, but you can also rely on them as well. So those close-knit communities and family really do play probably the most integral role. So the second reason leading on from that is the small village effect. When people live together in small villages and they know their neighbours and they have daily interactions, and I mentioned trust. They have people that they can depend upon, but also people that they can help out. And when you know your neighbours and everyone gets on well, which I believe they must do in these small towns, then again your stress goes down and your loneliness decreases. During COVID, it was highlighted that when you isolate people, it was the equivalent of smoking about 15 cigarettes a day in terms of how unhealthy it was for you. So loneliness is a big killer, and in these small towns, they don't really suffer from that. The third reason, which sort of again follows on from those previous two, is that they're big fans of festas, as they call them, festivals, if you like, and fellowship and faith. So they have regular church meetings. They've got a good moral structure as a result of that. There's a lot of times during the year where people will meet up and celebrate and reforge those social bonds. So those kind of festival type events are really helpful for, again, just reinvigorating those bonds of trust and community. That's the third reason. Now, the fourth reason, and perhaps my favourite, is the nutritional aspects. Now, I've made 2 videos already on this. One about pecorino cheese, which I filmed at 6:30 in the morning in the town down there, and had to be very quiet, so not a very good video. But the cheese was quite good, even though I'm vegan. I'm going to take this one for the team. And I don't mind. I've forgotten how good cheese was, but this is delicious. And then the second thing I've made a video about was about Cannonau wine, which is lovely. That is very delicious. I was not expecting that. And Cannonau wine, as I mentioned in the other video, is made from a type of Grenache which has a very thick skin. As a result of that, it has more tannins in it, more antioxidants, and more of the chemicals that are helpful towards things like cardiovascular health. But as well as that, these people do eat a predominantly plant-based diet. They do have some meats in there, but most of what they eat is legumes, garden vegetables, and whole grains, things like that. So those, as we know, are very good for our hearts. They're very good for reduction in inflammation and cardiovascular risk factors and what have you. So if you watch the video on Cannonau wine, I can't even remember, it was a few days back, but I think I sort of explain why those food types are very, very good. So if you're eating a predominantly plant-based diet that's full of antioxidants and things like omega-3 oils, then those are very, very healthy for us. The pecorino cheese video, I do talk about omega-3 because there is some evidence that might reduce mental decline as well and be a bit protective towards Alzheimer's. All of those things combined, that's nutrition, and that probably plays a really big factor in why these people live a long and healthy life. Okay, and one of the last factors, which in part is probably to do with the nutrition, is they grow a lot of their own foods and make their own cheeses and make their own wines, and a lot of them have active roles as a result of that. They do a lot of natural movement, and that town is on a slope. It is a horrible slope to drive up. There's nothing but uphill, I swear to God. I saw a little boy, I did actually see one little boy, riding his BMX up the hillside like it was nothing. And if you are goat herding, or you're tending your garden and your crops, and you're preparing all of this food that you've grown and carrying it up and down to your house, and going to the shops and walking up and down hillsides, or going to the church at the top of the hill, that uses a lot of energy, and it keeps your muscles strong, it keeps your bones strong, it's good for your heart and lungs and your mind and all of that stuff. So the movement aspect of it is very, very integral to why folk are healthy in these blue zones. So in summary, I think a lot of this is common sense. The people in the blue zones, they get on with each other, they trust each other, they look after each other. They have great bonds with their neighbours, their friends and their family. They eat a predominantly plant-based whole food diet, a lot of which they've grown themselves. And they do lots and lots of movement, and they do that naturally. They live in an environment where convenience doesn't exist, and that would be the hard option. And instead, inconvenience, discomfort, difficulty are the norm. But they accept that, and they live very, very healthily as a result of it. So if you want to live a long and healthy life, I know there's a lot the blue zones can teach us, but it's not rocket science. Eat a healthy diet, stay away from toxic substances, do lots of exercise, have good friends and connection, take time to relax. I mean, it's kind of the pillars of lifestyle medicine, really, isn't it? Now, speaking of relaxing, I'm going to run all the way back down to the village. I've already run up the hill today, but maybe I'll relax when I get home. This has been a wonderful trip to Sardinia. I would really recommend coming here if you have an interest in things like health and well-being. I've certainly found it relaxing. I have put on probably about 10 kilos from all the pasta and pizza that I've eaten, but there wasn't much else. There wasn't much else to eat for me here. And I've eaten a lot of cheese, which I would normally never eat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you in the next one. This is one of the first blue zones. This is where Dan Buettner did some of his research and figured out that the people here live to quite an old age. And Jesus.